Well, hello. It is so nice to see you again. We are continuing to tell this story about Israel moving from Egypt, where they were enslaved, to the promised land of Canaan. Remember last time the people finally started listening, they finally started obeying, they finally stopped complaining, and God gave them great victories. Remember that they had victories over the Amorites, and they had victories over other kingdoms, and everything is going well. Now, I'm sure it happens to you sometimes that things are going well for you and your parents will give you an instruction, they'll tell you to do something, and you'll say, yep, and then 1 minute later you have no idea what they said, right? It's not just kids, right? It's adults too. That sometimes we have real trouble paying attention. Sometimes we have real trouble focusing. Sometimes we have real trouble listening. And there's an odd and funny and wonderful story about a very smart man, a very good man, a man that God loved, a man who loved God, and God had to make sure he was actually paying attention, right? So you're ready for this story? All right, so Israel is continuing to move toward Canaan, and King Balak of Moab sees them coming, and he's afraid. He knows how powerful they are. He knows how many of them there are. He knows that their God is a powerful God. He doesn't know how powerful yet. He knows that no enemy can stand against Israel if Israel is doing what it's supposed to be doing and listening to the Lord our God. So he thinks to himself, I like being king. I don't want Israel to destroy my people. I don't want them to take my throne away from me. What shall I do? And King Balak thinks and thinks and thinks and thinks, and then he remembers Balaam. Balaam is a guy who lives a little ways away, and Balaam is someone who is deeply connected to the real God. Balaam listens to God. God speaks to Balaam. Balaam knows what God wants often. And Balaam is a very, very wise man. And King Balak says, I want Balaam to come and help me. Because anyone that Balaam blesses will be blessed, and anyone that Balaam curses will be cursed. I'm going to pay him to curse Israel for me. That's my plan. That's how I'm going to stay king. All right, as far as it goes, that makes perfect sense, right? So King Balak sends some of his rulers, some of his princes, some of his high officials to Balaam. They bring money and they say to him, the King Balak of Moab wants you to come, wants you to curse Israel. They're like grasshoppers. They're everywhere, right? They're going to destroy everything. Wants you to curse Israel so that he can keep his throne, so that he'll be protected. And Balaam says, well, I don't know what God thinks about that. You're welcome to stay here tonight, and I'll pray about it, and I'll give you my answer in the morning. So the princes and officials and whoever they were, they go to bed. Balaam goes to his room, and God says to him, who are those guys in your house? Of course, God knows. And Balaam says, oh, they're representatives from the king of Moab. He wants me to go with them and curse some group of people that's threatening him. What was in Israel? Wants me to curse Israel. And God says, absolutely not. Don't even think about it. Israel is under my protection. I love Israel. Don't go with them. Don't curse Israel. And Balaam says, got it. So he wakes up in the morning and he says to these representatives of King Balak, absolutely not. God says I can't go. I'm not coming. Forget it. Absolutely not. No way. God likes Israel. I won't be part of cursing them. So these representatives, these elders, these emissaries go back to King Balak and they say, Balaam says absolutely not. Won't do it. Now, you don't get to be king by just quitting on stuff. And King Balak says, no, I need Balaam. And so he sends more important officials, more important princes to try to talk him into it. And they bring a lot of money. And they say to him, Balaam, please, the king will not be denied in this. He's willing to give you great honor. He's willing to do anything for you that you need. Please come and curse Israel so that he can keep his throne. And Balaam says, look, if the king were to give me his own house stuffed full with silver and gold, and God said, no, I still wouldn't do it. I'm not doing it. But like the other guys, you're welcome to stay here. I'll talk to God again and see if there's any wiggle room in God's commands. So, that's the best answer they're going to get for tonight. So Balaam goes to his room and he prays, and God says, all right, listen, you can go with them, but you pay attention to me. You do exactly what I tell you. And Balaam says, okay. So Balaam wakes up the next morning, he saddles his donkey, he's got a favorite donkey that he rides everywhere. They head back to Moab. Now, Balaam is riding with a couple of his servants, the elders there. Are they ahead of him, behind him? We don't know, the Bible doesn't tell us. But at the moment of this part of the story, it's just Balaam and two of his servants and the donkey. And they're riding along, and God has that feeling that all parents know. You know it too, that sometimes you talk to people and they're just not paying attention. And God needs to make sure that Balaam's not going to do something dumb, that he's not going to go to Moab and curse Israel. Now, of course, God's stronger than anything that Balaam might say, but God likes it when things run smoothly for his people. So God sends an angel with a flaming sword to stand in front of Balaam. Now, Balaam can't see it, but the donkey can. And the donkey sees this angel with a flaming sword standing in the road ahead of him, and the donkey is so smart, right? The donkey's like, I'm not taking on any angel. That guy looks really scary, really dangerous. And the donkey goes galloping off into a field with Balaam on his back going, whoa, whoa, stop, donkey. And when they get out in the middle of the field and the donkey feels like he's far enough away from the angel, he does stop. And Balaam is so mad that he smacks that donkey with his stick. And the donkey looks over and the angel's gone, so the donkey lets himself go back on the road, and down the road they go. A little further on, there's a place where the road goes between two vineyards. A vineyard is a place where you raise grapes, And these are always walled so that animals won't come in and eat the grapes. So there's two high stone walls. And the angel of the Lord with the flaming sword stands between those walls, and the donkey smashes up against one of the walls and scrapes by to get past the angel, and in the process scrapes Balaam's foot between the donkey's body and this wall. Down the whole wall. Balaam is screaming. He is so angry. And he's smacking that donkey. Boom, 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 boom. Get away from the wall, you dumb donkey. The donkey's not getting away from the wall. He doesn't want to deal with the angel with the flaming sword. So they get through there and they go down the road a little more. And there's a very, very narrow place in the road where it's not possible to scrape by. There's no way to go. I don't know, maybe there's ditches or valleys on either side. There's no getting off the road. And there's the angel again with the flaming sword. And the donkey just isn't going to hear it. And the donkey sinks down and just lays in the road. Balaam is so mad, smacking that poor donkey. And the Lord gives the donkey a voice. I told you this is a fun story. The Lord gives the donkey a voice. And the donkey says, "Why are you hitting me?" And Balaam is so mad he doesn't even notice that the donkey's talking to him. You've been that mad, right? Where you just kind of... And Balaam says, "I wish I had a sword. I'd kill you. First the field and then the wall and now this." And God lets Balaam see the angel. The donkey says to him, "Has this been how I've treated you? You've ridden me for years and I've always been good." And Balaam says, "Yup." And then he looks up and he sees that angel and he knows that the donkey has protected him once, twice, 3 times. Balaam doesn't want to deal with the angel with the flaming sword either. And Balaam says to the angel, Am I supposed to go home? I mean, am I doing the wrong thing? I will go home right this minute. I am so sorry. I am so sorry. And the angel says to him, "No, you can go with the men. just do what I tell you. Don't do anything that I don't tell you. Do you think that he had Balaam's full attention then? I think so too. Now we're going to find out next week exactly what happens next. But now Balaam is listening. He is completely clear that he has a job to do, and there are some things that God doesn't want him to do. He is heading toward Balak, king of Moab. Balak wants him to curse Israel. I have a feeling that's not what's going to happen. How about you? All right, so we'll get back together next week. I am so glad for this time that we have together. For my Brazilian friends, I'm reading the newspaper about what's going on in your country with the pandemic, and you have my prayers. We remember you here. To my American friends, if you'd be thinking about our Brazilian brothers and sisters, I would be grateful for that. As we all pray together and remember that together we're the family of God, we ask that God would move, protect, and bless his people. So, thanks for joining me. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.